What's the explanation that seichel is machriach, that there is lamayla min seichel? What's the hechrech? Okay, which in English is, what is the proof for the idea that the mind mandate that there should be something above the mind? What's the proof? What's the proof? Now, I am a purist. I've heard this quote. I want to see the source, and I don't know the source off the top of my head, so I'm going to answer this question presuming that this source exists, but I would like to see the source. And if there is no source from one of the Rabbeim, then I would like to make us remember that when we have these beautiful cliches, if they're not from the Rabbeim, then they're not Torah, then they're interesting ideas, but that's what they are, interesting ideas. I'm not saying this isn't true, I'm saying I don't know the source of this. But I'm going to answer the question as if I do. The seichel, the human mind, is a judge. That's what it is, he's a judge. He's a shayfet, he's a discriminator. What does he judge? Whatever you put in front of him. And what you put in front of him is the reality of the world. The mind of the human being is given access to information through the senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching, and how those five senses inform the person's mind and the person's heart, and affect the person's judgment, and affect the person's emotions, and then the seichel, the human mind, is the judge of all of that. So, the human mind that's been given all the information, or whatever information that it's been given, based on the experience of the human being's senses, and then interpretation of those senses in the mind and the heart, which are then meant to be judged by the critical mind, by the intellectual, by the creative intellectual, by the critical thinker, to look at this world and not see that yesh balabayas lebirazu, that this world is so beautiful and so perfect and so exact, what physicists call so elegant, in chokhmas chitzenius, in the physical sciences and in the biological sciences, everybody agrees, and I'm talking about people who may be complete atheists in terms of their belief in God, that there's something about the universe and every detail within it that's undeniable, that it's absolutely beautiful. The design is elegant and classic. They bring that as a proof to the efficiency of nature, and we bring that a proof to the fact that there's an artist and a designer that's made all this happen, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you look at God's world, you see such beauty, you see such order. And when you look at human beings, you see not only beauty and order, but you see the need for meaning. Like, what's his name? The psychiatrist. Man's search for meaning. This was a man who was in the camps. Viktor Frankl was in the camps. He was in Auschwitz for several years. And he saw the relationship between human survival and living not to survive. These were intellectual, these are scientific, to the extent they can call social science science. Scientific conclusions that he reached from observation, that people who lived like animals within themselves and for survival died at a higher rate than people who lived like human beings. And a human being doesn't mean an animal that's smart, or an animal that walks on two legs, an animal that wears clothing, an animal that cooks his food, an animal that can build artificial shelters, but an animal that lives for a higher purpose. And that higher purpose is to worship, that higher purpose is to be kind, that higher purpose is to get close to other human beings, not just because of what we're going to take from them, but simply to have those relationships. A higher purpose is generosity and kindness. All of these conclusions the brain observes. And when the brain observes all of these things, the brain has to ask himself a simple question. Is the be-all and the end-all of the reality what we see? Or is there something more? And it leads to a very simple conclusion. That there's more to reality than we see, and there's more to reality than we're able to understand. And that's the meaning of this statement, assuming that it's a statement from Rabbi Yossi, that seichel is machriach l'mal min seichel, the human mind, if it's used with any correctness, is absolutely certain of transcendence, that there's something, as they say, out there that's bigger and greater than the human mind's ability to judge and to explain. And the correct response to that, whatever it is out there, is curiosity and humility. Is a desire to want to know it and the ability to say, for lack of words, I'm not God. There's something out there that's bigger and greater than me. And maybe I'll never know what it is, but I'd like to try. Maybe I'll never understand it fully, but I'd like to know it a little bit. Maybe I will not be able to define myself by it completely, but I'd like to at least relate to it a little bit and somehow figure out how to define myself based on my sense of what's out there.